Every month, a GM V8 comes into the shop on a tow truck. Lifters collapsed, cam destroyed, bearings scored, engine done. And every single time, the owner says the same thing. I didn't know. 5 mistakes, all preventable, all connected to how you use the engine, not how you maintain it. You can follow every oil change interval, every maintenance schedule, and still destroy a 5.3 or 6.2 if you're making any of these 5 mistakes while driving it. Every fix on this list costs less than $50. Every failure costs $3,000 to $15,000. The last mistake is the one I see the most, and the one that turns a $3,000 repair into an engine replacement. Let's start with the most common one. Mistake number 5, and the most widespread mistake in the entire GM V8 community, is ignoring oil consumption between changes. GM 5.3 and 6.2 V8s with AFM or DFM are known oil consumers. Some trucks burn a quart every 1,000 to 2,000 miles, and GM's official position, right there in the owner's manual, is that 1 quart per 2,000 miles is considered normal operation. Not a defect, not a warranty claim. Normal. Here's the mistake. Owner sets a 5,000 or 7,500 mile oil change interval, either by the oil life monitor or by habit. Never opens the hood between changes. Never checks the dipstick. By the time the next oil change comes around, the engine is 2, sometimes 3 quarts low. On a 5.3 that holds 8 quarts, running 2 quarts low means you've lost 25% of your oil volume. 3 quarts low, that's over a third? And here's what nobody tells you about what happens inside the engine when oil drops that far. Oil doesn't just lubricate, cools. Every internal component that oil touches, lifters and cam lobes, rod bearings, piston rings, relies on that oil film for both protection and heat dissipation. Drop the oil level 2 quarts and oil pressure drops. The oil pump starts pulling harder. The pickup tube, which sits at the bottom of the oil pan, starts getting close to air on hard turns, hard braking, and uphill grades. That means intermittent starvation, not full loss, intermittent. The engine keeps running, the oil light stays off, but microscopically, metal surfaces are touching without a full oil film thousands of times per minute. Here's the thing. The components most sensitive to low oil pressure on a GM V8 are the AFM lifters, the exact components that already have the highest failure rate. Running 2 quarts low doesn't cause lifter failure on its own, but it accelerates the timeline dramatically. A lifter that might have lasted 150,000 miles at full oil level fails at 90,000 when it's been running chronically low. The cost of failure, lifter replacement with cam, runs $3,000 to $5,500. If bearings are scored from sustained low oil, you're looking at engine replacement, $6,000 to $12,000 installed on a 5.3. The fix, and this is what makes it painful, costs nothing. Check the dipstick every time you fill up with fuel. 30 seconds. Keep a quart of the correct weight in the back seat or the bed. Top off when it's a half quart low. That's it. That alone prevents the #1 accelerating factor in AFM lifter failure. A 30-second dipstick check prevents a $4,000 repair. And nobody does it. But this next mistake does even more damage, because the engine is working at its hardest when it happens. Mistake number 4, towing with AFM or DFM still active. Every GM V8 with active fuel management or dynamic fuel management deactivates cylinders to save fuel. In normal highway cruising, the system cycles on and off constantly, sometimes switching between 4 and 8 cylinders dozens of times in a single drive. It's seamless. You don't feel it. And in light load daily driving, it works fine for most engines. Now hook up a 5,000 to 7,000 pound trailer and drive for 3 hours. The engine is working harder. RPMs are higher. Load on every component is doubled or tripled. And the ECU is still trying to save fuel by cycling cylinders on and off. The AFM lifters, which are already the weakest link in the entire engine, are now cycling under maximum load. Engaging, disengaging, engaging, disengaging, over and over, mile after mile, with the full weight of a trailer behind the truck. Mechanics have a name for this. They call it towing your lifters to death. The deactivation mechanism wasn't designed to cycle under sustained heavy load. The oil pressure demands, the heat, the mechanical stress on the lifter roller and the cam lobe. It all compounds. and the failure rate under towing load is significantly higher than under normal driving. Now, I know what you're thinking. Doesn't tow haul mode fix this? No. This is one of the most dangerous assumptions GMC owners make. Tow haul mode adjusts shift points in engine braking strategy. On most GM trucks, it does not disable A, FM, or D, FM. During steady-state cruise with a trailer, highway towing at 65 miles per hour, AFM can still activate. The truck is trying to save you pennies per mile while putting thousands of dollars of stress on the lifters. Here's how you check. Download a free OBD app like Torque, plug in a $15 Bluetooth scanner, and watch the cylinder deactivation data while towing. If you see cylinders shutting down on the highway with a trailer behind you, that's your confirmation. Your truck is deactivating under load, and that needs to stop. The fix: disable AFM or DFM before you tow. A range disabler, around $250, plug and play, keeps all cylinders firing all the time. I covered this in the upgrades video. Under towing load, this isn't optional. It's engine protection. If you're towing anything over 3,000 pounds more than a couple times a year, this is the single most cost-effective thing you can do for your engine. Your truck is trying to save fuel while pulling a 7,000-pound trailer. It's saving pennies and spending thousands. And this next mistake happens every single morning, and most owners don't even realize they're doing it. Mistake number 3, full throttle on a cold engine, the morning launch. The first 3 to 5 minutes after a cold start are the most critical minutes of every drive. Oil has settled to the bottom of the pan overnight. Metal components have contracted to cold dimensions. Clearances between the piston and cylinder wall, between the cam lobe and the lifter, between the crankshaft journal and the bearing. And the oil that's supposed to protect those surfaces is cold, thick, and hasn't reached full system pressure. The majority of total engine wear happens during cold starts. That's not an opinion. That's measured, documented, and published by every major oil company and engine manufacturer. The first 60 seconds after ignition is when the most metal-on-metal contact occurs. Now here's the mistake. Owner starts the truck, puts it in drive, floors it to merge onto the highway. The engine goes from idle to 5,000 RPM within a minute of starting. Every bearing, every cam lobe, every lifter surface is taking full load before the oil is warm enough to flow properly and before the metal has expanded to its designed operating clearances. Stay with me here. On a GM V8 with AFM, this is even worse. The AFM lifters have tighter mechanical tolerances than standard lifters. They depend on specific oil pressure and temperature to cycle correctly. Hit them with full throttle at cold oil temps, and the lifter mechanism doesn't have the oil film it needs. That's accelerated wear on a component that's already failure-prone. The worst version of this, remote start plus immediate full throttle. Remote start idles the engine for 5 to 10 minutes, great for oil circulation. But the owner gets in, sees the engine is running, assumes everything is warm, and immediately goes wide open throttle. The engine is partially warmed, the transmission and drivetrain are still cold, and the owner just commanded maximum power through a system that's operating at 2 different temperature ranges. The fix costs nothing and takes 0 effort. Drive gently for the first 5 minutes. You don't need to idle for 10 minutes. That wastes fuel and creates its own problems. Just drive normally. Keep RPMs below 3,000. Avoid wide open throttle until the coolant temperature gauge reaches normal operating range. That's it. That's what separates a 300,000-mile engine from a 150,000-mile engine. Quick thing, if you're starting to realize your engine might be dealing with one of these right now, you're not alone. That's exactly why I make these videos. Hit subscribe. I break down the stuff that keeps your GMC alive every single week. Not guesswork, not forums. The stuff mechanics actually know. Now, these last 2 mistakes are the ones that cost the most money. And mistake number 2 is the one that surprises owners the most because they think they're doing the right thing. Mistake number 2, running the wrong oil weight or cheap oil. The oil is oil mentality. GM specifies Dexos 1 Gen 3 certified oil for every gasoline V8 from 2011 forward. The weight specification is not a suggestion. It's engineered to match the tolerances and operating requirements of your engine. 0W20 for 2019 and newer DFM engines. 5W30 for most Gen 4 and early Gen 5 engines. These numbers exist because the AFM and DFM lifter mechanisms depend on specific oil viscosity and pressure characteristics to function correctly. Here's the mistake. Owner goes to a Quick Lube. Quick Lube puts in whatever conventional 5W30 they have in bulk, regardless of whether the truck calls for 0W20. Or the owner buys whatever's cheapest at the parts store. Or, and this one is surprisingly common, the owner switches to a heavier weight because it's a truck, or because they read on a forum that 10W30 is better for high mileage engines. Let me be very direct about what happens when you run oil that's too heavy for a DFM engine spec'd for 0W20. The lifter deactivation mechanism depends on oil flowing through precise passages at a specific pressure. Heavier oil changes the flow rate and pressure curve. The lifters don't cycle cleanly. They hesitate, stick, or don't fully engage. That incomplete cycling creates wear patterns that accelerate the exact failure mode everyone's afraid of. It's like forcing a precision instrument to work through syrup instead of water. And it gets worse with cheap oil. Conventional oil breaks down faster under the heat and shear stress of AFM cycling. The additive package, the detergents, anti-wear compounds, and viscosity modifiers, depletes faster than in a quality full synthetic. By 3,000 miles on cheap conventional, that oil has lost a meaningful percentage of its protective properties. By 5,000 miles, it's barely doing its job. Stretch it to the Oil Life Monitor's 7,500 miles, and you're running on fluid that's protecting almost nothing. Here's a tip. Next time you get an oil change at a Quick Lube, check the receipt before you leave. It should list the exact oil weight and whether it's Dexos certified. If it says conventional 5W30 and your truck calls for full synthetic 0W20, they just put the wrong oil in your engine. Ask them to drain it and do it again. Don't leave with the wrong oil. Here's the math that makes the cheap oil decision look insane. The savings from cheap conventional over quality Dexos certified full synthetic. $15 to $20 per oil change. 4 oil changes a year. $60 to $80 saved annually. The repair, when that savings accelerates lifter failure. $3,000 to $5,500. You're saving $60 a year to risk $4,000. The fix, run Dexos 1 certified full synthetic in the exact weight GM specifies. Mobile 1, Pennzoil Platinum, Valvoline Advanced Full Synthetic. Any of these in the correct weight. And change it at 5,000 miles, regardless of what the Oil Life Monitor tells you. The OLM on GM trucks is optimistic, especially on engines with AFM that are consuming oil and running hotter internally than the computer accounts for. The cheapest oil in your engine is the most expensive decision you'll make. And mistake number 1, this is the one I see more than anything else, the one that turns a $3,000 repair into an engine replacement, and the one that's happening right now to someone watching this video. Mistake number 1, ignoring the lifter tick and driving through it. There is a sound that every GMV8 owner needs to know. A ticking or tapping noise from the top of the engine, sometimes only on cold start, sometimes constant once the engine is warm. On 5.3 and 6.2 V8s with AFM or DFM, that sound is almost always a collapsed or collapsing lifter. And what happens next depends entirely on what the owner does when they hear it. Here's what most owners do. They hear the tick, they Google it, they find forum posts that say, lots of trucks have it. They find YouTube comments that say, mine has been ticking for 2 years, still runs fine. They turn up the radio, and they keep driving. Let me tell you what's actually happening inside that engine while the radio covers the evidence. A collapsed lifter is no longer riding the camshaft lobe correctly. The roller on the bottom of the lifter, the part that's supposed to roll smoothly along the cam, is either stuck, damaged, or not making proper contact. Instead of rolling, it's grinding. Metal on metal. Thousands of times per minute at highway RPM. The cam lobe is being worn down, flattened, by a lifter that's no longer doing its job. And every mile you drive, it gets worse. Metal shavings from the cam lobe and lifter roller enter the oil. That contaminated oil circulates through the entire engine, into the bearings, into the oil passages, across every lubricated surface. It's sandpaper in your oil system. I'm going to walk you through the stages because this is where the cost multiplies. Stage 1, lifter tick, cam lobe wear beginning. You catch it here, the repair is lifter replacement, possibly a new camshaft. $3,000 to $5,500. Expensive, painful, but the engine survives. Stage 2. Continued driving, 5,000 to 15,000 miles on a ticking lifter. Cam lobe is now visibly worn. Metal debris has damaged adjacent lifters. The oil system is contaminated. Repair is full lifter set, new cam, oil system flush, possibly new oil pump. $5,000 to $7,000. Stage 3. Another 10,000 to 20,000 miles. Metal debris has scored the crankshaft bearings. Cylinder walls show damage from contaminated oil. At this point, the repair is more expensive than the engine is worth. Engine replacement. 6,000 to 12,000 on a 5.3, 8,000 to 15,000 on a 6.2. Let me be clear. Stage 1 to Stage 3 can happen within a single year of driving on a ticking lifter. I've seen it in as little as 20,000 miles. Every single time the owner says the same thing, I thought it was normal. I read online that it was fine. I didn't know it would get this bad. Now you know. The moment you hear a persistent tick from the valve train, get it diagnosed. Not next month, not after the road trip. Now, if it's a collapsed lifter, repair it at Stage 1. Yes, it's $3,000 to $5,000. That's a lot of money. But the alternative is double or triple that. Or a truck that needs an engine. A tick you ignore for 6 months becomes a knock. A knock you ignore for 3 months becomes a tow truck. Don't ask me how I know. 5 mistakes. All preventable. All connected to the same engine system that GM owners have been dealing with for over a decade. AFM and DFM create a weak point, and every mistake on this list makes that weak point weaker. Low oil accelerates it, towing with it active accelerates it, cold throttle accelerates it, wrong oil accelerates it, and ignoring the warning sound guarantees the most expensive outcome. But now you know. Check the dipstick. Disable AFM when you tow. Drive gently for the first 5 minutes. Run the right oil. And the moment you hear a tick, act. Every fix on this list costs less than a tank of fuel. Every failure costs thousands. If you want to know which GM engine avoids the worst of these problems, watch The Only GMC Engine Worth Buying in 2026. And if you want the 5 cheap upgrades that protect the engine you already have, watch 5 cheap GMC upgrades everyone ignores. Gold mines. Every owner on the hoist said the same thing. I didn't know. Now you do. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.